So how can we assess the impact of drugs on behavior? And one sort of basic thing that scientists can do is they can report simple behavioral observations like just watch and record behavior. And this can be done actually sort of electronically too, using various forms of modern day Skinner box. You can basically see how many lever presses, or you could actually record eating and drinking behavior, for example, fighting behavior, incidents of fighting, tremor maybe that you're looking for, rotation. If you've got a mouse model, for example, of Parkinson's disease, and you've damaged the basal ganglia on one side, the number of defecation events and things like that. And another very common sort of behavioral observation is to examine what we call locomotor activity, because many drugs, for example, psychostimulants, basically stimulate activity. They generate far more motor activity and engagement. The animals are going to run around and move quite a bit more, and you can utilize, for example, these kinds of specialized locomotor activity chambers. Where you put the rodent in, and maybe in the experimental group it gets cocaine or caffeine and, some kind of psychostimulant. And then you have these infrared beams that are arrayed all the way across this chamber. And as it crosses them, it records the number of line crossings or beam crossings. Way back in the day, you had to actually have observers, usually more than one, who would actually record when the animal went across on a grid. But now this is, basically done electronically. And you can see if the drug has a psychostimulating effect. These kinds of locomotor activity chambers, too, can also be used to assess, for example, anxiety levels or fear levels in rodents, because if a rodent is, particularly, anxious, it will tend to stay along the edges, right? That's actually sort of normal, behavior for a rodent to stay along the edges of the chamber, not venture out into the middle. But if you give it a drug that reduces anxiety, that's an anxiolytic drug like alcohol, for example, it may sort of wander around a bit. It might increase. It typically increases locomotor activity in the short term. It has a biphasic effect, and then it'll reduce it if you give more and more alcohol. But it'll tend to go out into the center and be less concerned or less anxious about, sticking close to the edges. So, aspects of simple behavioral observation or looking at changes in locomotor activity are definitely some of the behavioral measures that are used in studies of the influence, the effects of drugs.